The morning sun cast long shadows across the marble courtyard of Windsor Castle as Captain Marcus Whitfield adjusted his ceremonial sword for the third time in 10 minutes. 28 years old, and already the youngest captain in the Royal Guard's history, Marcus carried himself with the quiet confidence that came from years of rigorous training and unwavering dedication to the crown. His dark blue uniform, pressed to perfection, bore the golden insignia that marked him as Princess Catherine's personal protection officer. Princess Catherine Rose Elizabeth, second in line to the throne, was scheduled to attend the annual Children's Hospital Charity Gala in London that afternoon. At 25, she had earned a reputation as the people's princess, beloved for her genuine warmth and tireless charitable work. Unlike many royals who maintained careful distance from the public, Catherine insisted on close contact with those she served, a tendency that gave Marcus and his team constant concern. The security briefing had been thorough, as always. Detective Chief Inspector Sarah Hammond from Scotland Yard's Royalty and Specialist Protection Unit had outlined the route, identified potential threats, and coordinated with local police forces. The princess would travel by motorcade to the London Children's Hospital, participate in a ribbon-cutting ceremony for the new pediatric wing, spend time with young patients, and deliver a speech at the evening gala. Marcus reviewed the files one final time. Recent intelligence reports mentioned increased chatter from anti-monarchy groups, though nothing specific or credible enough to cancel the engagement. The Metropolitan Police had arrested 3 individuals the previous week for making threats against the royal family, but all were deemed unstable rather than genuinely dangerous. Still, Marcus felt the familiar knot in his stomach that accompanied every public appearance. "Sir, the princess is ready," announced Sergeant James Mitchell, Marcus's second-in-command. A veteran of 15 years in the Guard, Mitchell had seen 3 different royals through countless public engagements and possessed an almost supernatural ability to spot trouble in crowds. Marcus nodded and made his way to the princess's private quarters. He found her in the blue drawing room, reviewing notes for her speech while her lady-in-waiting, Helen Morrison, made final adjustments to her powder-blue dress. Catherine looked up as Marcus entered, her green eyes bright with the enthusiasm she brought to every charitable engagement. "Good morning, Captain Whitfield," she said warmly. "I trust you're not going to try to talk me out of the hospital visit like you did last month." Marcus allowed himself a small smile. The princess had insisted on visiting children quarantined with infectious diseases against strong security advice. "No, Your Royal Highness, though I would appreciate if you could resist the urge to hug every child you meet." Catherine laughed, a sound that never failed to remind Marcus why the public adored her. "I make no promises, Captain. Children need affection, especially sick ones." This was exactly what made protecting Princess Catherine both a privilege and a challenge. Her genuine compassion and refusal to remain distant from those she served made her an exceptional royal, but it also made Marcus's job exponentially more difficult. Every handshake, every hug, every moment of spontaneous interaction created potential vulnerabilities that kept him awake at night. The motorcade consisted of 4 vehicles, an advance car with Metropolitan Police officers, the princess's armored Bentley, Marcus's security vehicle, and a backup car with additional protection officers. As they departed Windsor Castle, Marcus maintained constant radio contact with the advance team, monitoring traffic conditions, crowd sizes, and any unusual activity along the route. The journey to London proceeded smoothly. Princess Catherine spent the time reviewing briefing materials about the hospital's new pediatric wing and the young patients she would meet. Dr. Elizabeth Parker, the hospital's chief pediatrician, had provided detailed information about each child, including their medical conditions, interests, and how the princess might best connect with them. "Tell me again about Tommy Harrison," Catherine said, studying a photograph of a 7-year-old boy with bright red hair and a gap-toothed grin. Helen consulted her notes. 7 years old, been battling leukemia for 2 years. He's responding well to treatment, but has been in hospital for 3 months. His favorite subject is dinosaurs, and he's apparently convinced that you're a real princess from a fairy tale. Catherine's expression softened, and Maria Santos, 9 years old, severe burns from a house fire 6 months ago. She's had multiple surgeries and is finally well enough for visits. She loves to draw and has created several pictures specifically for your visit. Marcus listened to these conversations with mixed emotions. Catherine's genuine interest in each child's story exemplified everything admirable about her character. but it also meant she would want to spend maximum time with each patient, regardless of security concerns. He had learned over the years that attempting to rush these interactions only made the princess more determined to extend them. As the motorcade approached London, Marcus noticed increased radio chatter from the advance team. Crowds were larger than expected, with hundreds of people lining the streets despite the engagement receiving minimal media coverage. Most appeared to be hospital staff, families of patients, and local residents hopping for a glimpse of the princess. "Looks like word got out," Mitchell observed from the front passenger seat. "It always does," Marcus replied, scanning the crowds through the vehicle's tinted windows. Years of experience had taught him to watch for subtle signs. Individuals who seemed overly focused on the motorcade rather than excited to see the princess, people with their hands concealed, anyone moving against the flow of the crowd, or positioned in locations that provided escape routes. The motorcade pulled into the hospital's main courtyard, where a red carpet had been laid from the entrance to a small platform decorated with colorful balloons and banners created by young patients. Hospital administrators, local dignitaries, and carefully screened family members filled the designated viewing area. Dr. Parker approached as Princess Catherine stepped from the Bentley, her smile radiant as she waved to the cheering crowd. Marcus positioned himself 2 steps behind and slightly to her right, his eyes continuously scanning faces and hands while maintaining the subtle distance that allowed the princess to interact naturally with well-wishers. The ribbon-cutting ceremony proceeded flawlessly. Catherine delivered brief remarks about the importance of pediatric health care and the courage of young patients and their families. She wielded the ceremonial scissors with practiced ease, officially opening the new wing to enthusiastic applause. "Your Royal Highness," Dr. Parker said as the formal ceremony concluded, "the children are incredibly excited to meet you. We have 15 patients well enough for brief visits, ranging in age from 5 to 16. Catherine's face lit up with genuine joy. "Wonderful, Captain Whitfield, shall we go make some new friends?" Marcus nodded, though he felt his protective instincts heighten. Hospital environments presented unique challenges: multiple entry and exit points, numerous staff members with legitimate access, medical equipment that could conceal threats, and the emotional intensity that came with seriously ill children and worried families. The first patient was Tommy Harrison, the 7-year-old with leukemia. His room had been decorated with dinosaur posters and balloons, and his parents stood nervously beside his bed as Princess Catherine entered. "Tommy," Catherine said, approaching the bed with a warm smile, "I hear you're an expert on dinosaurs." Tommy's eyes widened as he took in the princess's elegant dress and sparkling jewelry. "Are you really a princess?" he whispered in awe. "I really am," Catherine confirmed, settling into the chair beside his bed. "And I hear you know all about creatures that lived millions of years ago. Can you tell me about your favorite dinosaur?" For the next 20 minutes, Tommy regaled the princess with detailed information about various dinosaur species, their eating habits, and theories about their extinction. Catherine listened with rapt attention, asking thoughtful questions and expressing appropriate amazement at particularly impressive facts. Marcus watched from the doorway, simultaneously touched by the interaction and vigilant for any threats. Hospital staff moved through the corridors with purposeful efficiency, but he noted each face and movement pattern. The emotional intensity in pediatric wards always ran high, creating an environment where unusual behavior might go unnoticed. As they moved from room to room, Princess Catherine's effect on the young patients became increasingly evident. Maria Santos, the 9-year-old burn victim, presented the princess with a carefully drawn picture of a castle surrounded by flowers. Catherine studied it with serious attention before declaring it absolutely magnificent and promising to display it in her private study. 16-year-old David Chen, recovering from surgery to remove a brain tumor, initially seemed too cool to be impressed by royal visits. But when Catherine spent 45 minutes discussing his passion for computer programming and his dreams of studying at MIT, his reserved demeanor melted away. She promised to connect him with technology programs for young people and encouraged his academic aspirations with genuine enthusiasm. Each interaction lasted longer than scheduled, but Marcus had learned not to interfere unless absolutely necessary. These visits meant everything to the children and families, and Catherine's refusal to hurry through them was part of what made her exceptional at her role. As they moved through the ward, Marcus noticed a man in hospital scrubs who seemed to appear repeatedly in different areas. The man looked familiar, though Marcus couldn't immediately place him. He was tall, perhaps 40 years old, with graying hair and what appeared to be legitimate medical credentials. Still, something about his movements triggered Marcus's instincts. The man never came close to Princess Catherine, but Marcus observed him watching the royal party with unusual intensity. When Marcus tried to get a clearer look, the man seemed to anticipate his attention and moved away quickly. "Mitchell," Marcus said quietly into his radio, "there's a medical staff member, tall, gray hair, blue scrubs, who's been shadowing our movement. Can you check with hospital administration about additional security screening?" "Copy that, sir. I'll verify all staff in the area." Meanwhile, Princess Catherine continued her visits, seemingly unaware of Marcus's concerns. She had moved on to meet 12-year-old Sophie Williams, who had been born with a rare heart condition and was awaiting her third surgery. "I'm scared," Sophie confided to the princess, her voice barely audible. Catherine took the girl's hand gently. "It's okay to be scared, Sophie. Fear shows us what's important to us. But you know what I've learned? The bravest people aren't the ones who feel no fear. They're the ones who feel afraid but do what they need to do anyway." Sophie's mother wiped tears from her eyes as her daughter's expression brightened slightly. "Will you come visit me after my surgery?" Sophie asked. "If your doctors say it's okay and your parents don't mind, I'll try my very best," Catherine promised. "But even if I can't visit right away, I want you to know that I'll be thinking about you and hopping for your complete recovery." Marcus felt his radio crackle softly. Mitchell's voice came through his earpiece. "Sir, hospital confirms all staff in the area have been properly vetted. The individual you spotted is Dr. Robert Chen, pediatric surgeon, 15 years with the hospital. He's actually David Chen's father." The explanation made sense, but Marcus remained alert. Family connections could complicate situations in unexpected ways, especially when emotions ran high. He made a mental note to keep Dr. Chen within his peripheral vision. As the afternoon progressed, Princess Catherine visited each of the 15 patients on her list, spending far more time than scheduled but creating memories that would last these children and families forever. Her genuine interest in each child's story, her willingness to engage with their interests and fears, and her ability to bring joy to difficult circumstances reminded Marcus why he had dedicated his career to protecting her. The final visit was to 8-year-old Emma Taylor, who had been born with severe cerebral palsy. Emma communicated through a specialized computer device and had prepared a message for the princess weeks in advance. As Catherine knelt beside Emma's wheelchair, the little girl activated her communication device. A computerized voice spoke her carefully composed words. "Princess Catherine, thank you for coming to see us. You make us feel special and important. I want to be like you when I grow up and help other children." Catherine's eyes filled with tears as she gently squeezed Emma's hand. "Emma, you're already helping other children by showing them how brave and wonderful you are. You inspire me, and I'm honored to meet you." The moment was interrupted by commotion from the corridor. Marcus heard rapid footsteps, raised voices, and what sounded like a struggle. His hand moved instinctively toward his concealed weapon as he stepped closer to Princess Catherine. "Stay with the princess," he instructed Mitchell tersely, then moved toward the doorway to assess the situation. What he saw in the corridor made his blood run cold. A man Marcus didn't recognize was arguing loudly with hospital security officers, his voice echoing through the pediatric ward. The stranger wore civilian clothes and carried a large camera bag, claiming to be a freelance photographer with permission to document the princess's visit. Hospital staff insisted no such permission had been granted, and security was attempting to escort him from the building. Marcus quickly assessed the situation. The photographer appeared agitated but not immediately threatening. However, his presence represented a security breach that needed immediate attention. More concerning was the disruption occurring so close to Princess Catherine while she was engaged with vulnerable children. "Sir," Mitchell's voice came through Marcus's earpiece, "Metropolitan Police are requesting confirmation of our status. They've received reports of an unauthorized individual in the hospital." "Situation contained," Marcus replied quietly, though he remained focused on the developing scene. The photographer was now shouting about press freedom and public interest, drawing attention from staff and families throughout the ward. Hospital Security Chief William Barnes approached Marcus with obvious concern. "Captain Whitfield, we had no advance notice of any media presence. This individual arrived about 20 minutes ago, claiming to have Royal Press Office credentials, but we can't verify his authorization." Marcus studied the photographer more carefully. Middle-aged, average height, with the intense demeanor common among paparazzi who specialized in following royals. His camera equipment appeared professional, and his arguments about press access suggested familiarity with royal protocols. However, something about his timing and behavior raised red flags. "Has anyone examined his credentials?" Marcus asked. "Our staff looked at them briefly, but we're not equipped to authenticate Royal Press Office documents," Barnes admitted. He became aggressive when we questioned him further. The situation was escalating precisely as Marcus had feared. The photographer's presence, whether legitimate or not, was creating exactly the kind of disruption that could provide cover for more serious threats. Meanwhile, Princess Catherine remained in Emma Taylor's room, unaware of the commotion outside. "I need to see those credentials immediately," Marcus told Barnes, then spoke into his radio. "Mitchell, initiate quiet lockdown protocol. No one enters or leaves the ward until we resolve this situation." As Marcus approached the photographer, the man turned toward him with obvious recognition. "Captain Whitfield, I presume? I'm Jeremy Hawkins from Royal Focus magazine. I have every right to document this public engagement." Marcus extended his hand. "Mr. Hawkins, I need to examine your press credentials." Hawkins hesitated momentarily before producing a leather folder containing what appeared to be official Royal Press Office identification. Marcus studied the documents carefully. The photography appeared authentic, and the format matched legitimate credentials he had seen before. However, something about the paper quality and printing seemed slightly off. "Mr. Hawkins, I'm going to need you to accompany me to the hospital administrator's office while we verify these credentials," Marcus said diplomatically but firmly. "This is harassment," Hawkins protested. "I'm a legitimate journalist covering a public royal engagement. You have no authority to detain me." "Sir, I have every authority to ensure the princess's safety," Marcus replied calmly. "If your credentials are authentic, this will be resolved quickly. If not, you're facing serious charges." As hospital security moved to escort Hawkins away, Marcus noticed movement at the far end of the corridor. Dr. Robert Chen, David's father, was walking quickly toward the elevator, carrying what appeared to be a medical bag. His movement pattern seemed urgent, almost furtive, quite different from his earlier casual observation of the royal visit. Marcus felt his protective instincts sharpen. Two unusual situations developing simultaneously could indicate coordinated threats. Professional training had taught him never to dismiss apparent coincidences during high-profile security operations. "Barnes, I need you to quietly verify Dr. Chen's current schedule and responsibilities," Marcus instructed. "Don't approach him directly, but confirm he's supposed to be in this area." Meanwhile, Princess Catherine emerged from Emma Taylor's room, her face glowing with the satisfaction that always followed meaningful interactions with the young patients. She noticed the subtle tension among security personnel, but didn't immediately understand its source. "Captain Whitfield, is everything all right?" she asked quietly. "Minor administrative issue, Your Royal Highness. We'll have it resolved momentarily." Catherine's intuition, sharpened by years of public engagements, told her the situation was more serious than Marcus indicated. She had learned to read the subtle signs that distinguished routine security measures from genuine concerns. The positioning of protection officers, the increased radio chatter, and the careful way Marcus avoided eye contact all suggested elevated threat levels. "Perhaps we should proceed to the gala preparation area," she suggested diplomatically, giving Marcus flexibility to manage whatever situation had developed. "An excellent suggestion, Your Royal Highness." As they moved through the corridor, Marcus maintained constant awareness of their surroundings. The photographer situation remained unresolved. Dr. Chen had disappeared into the elevator, and the general atmosphere in the hospital seemed more tense than usual. Years of experience had taught him that threats often emerged from unexpected combinations of seemingly unrelated factors. The hospital's administrative conference room had been converted into a preparation area for the evening gala. Princess Catherine would have 90 minutes to review her speech, change into her evening gown, and meet with key donors and hospital board members before the main event. Helen Morrison had already arranged Catherine's evening attire and was reviewing the final guest list when they arrived. The gala would host 400 attendees, including major charitable donors, medical professionals, government officials, and carefully selected media representatives. "Your Royal Highness," Helen said, "the guest list includes several individuals you've met at previous charitable functions. Lord and Lady Pemberton, who donated the funding for the new pediatric wing, are particularly eager to speak with you about future projects." Catherine reviewed the materials while Marcus coordinated with his security team. The gala would present different challenges than the hospital visits. A larger crowd, multiple entry points, staff serving food and beverages, and the formal protocol that required the princess to interact with dozens of strangers throughout the evening. Marcus's radio crackled softly. "Sir, this is Detective Inspector Hammond. The photographer's credentials appear to be sophisticated forgeries. Royal Press Office has no record of Jeremy Hawkins or Royal Focus magazine." Marcus felt his pulse quicken. Professional quality forged press credentials suggested significant planning and resources. This wasn't the work of an opportunistic paparazzi or casual royal enthusiast. "What's Hawkins's background?" Marcus asked. "Still investigating, but preliminary checks show no legitimate journalism history. He's used multiple aliases and has previous arrests for stalking and harassment, though nothing related to the royal family." The information painted a troubling picture. Hawkins had invested considerable effort and expense to gain access to Princess Catherine, using sophisticated forged documents and demonstrating knowledge of royal protocols. His presence couldn't be dismissed as coincidental or opportunistic. "Has he been questioned about his intentions?" Marcus inquired. "He's claiming this is all a misunderstanding and insisting his credentials are genuine. But he's become increasingly agitated and is demanding to speak directly with you." Marcus considered the implications. Hawkins's insistence on speaking with him personally suggested either desperation or specific information he believed might be valuable. Neither possibility was encouraging. "Keep him in custody until we complete the evening's events," Marcus decided. "I'll speak with him afterward." As Marcus focused on the Hawkins situation, Helen Morrison approached with obvious concern. "Captain Whitfield, I've been reviewing the evening's protocol, and there's been a last-minute addition to the guest list that wasn't in our original briefing." Marcus immediately gave her his full attention. "What kind of addition?" "A Dr. Margaret Chen has been added as a special guest of the hospital board. She's listed as a pediatric specialist from Edinburgh, but I can't find any advance vetting information in our files." The name Chen triggered Marcus's earlier concerns about Dr. Robert Chen. "Is there any indication of a relationship to Dr. Robert Chen, one of the hospital's surgeons?" Helen checked her notes. "Not specifically mentioned, but the surname suggests possible family connection. Should I investigate further?" "Yes, and do it immediately. I need full background on both individuals, including any connections between them." Marcus realized the situation was becoming increasingly complex. The forged credentials, the suspicious photographer, and now a last-minute guest addition with potential family ties to someone who had exhibited unusual behavior during the hospital visit. Professional experience suggested these elements might be connected. Meanwhile, Princess Catherine was reviewing her speech for the evening gala. The remarks focused on the transformative power of medical care for children, the importance of community support for families facing medical crises, and the hope that the new pediatric wing would provide healing for countless young patients. "Captain Whitfield," she said, looking up from her notes, "I sense there's something you're not telling me about the security situation. I need to know if there are genuine concerns that might affect this evening's event." Marcus appreciated Catherine's directness. Unlike some royals who preferred to remain insulated from security details, she understood that her cooperation was essential for effective protection. "Your Royal Highness, we're investigating some irregular circumstances. Nothing that poses immediate danger, but enough to warrant increased vigilance." "The photographer who was removed from the ward." "That's part of it. His credentials were forged, and his background suggests concerning behavior patterns." Catherine nodded thoughtfully. "Do you recommend postponing or modifying this evening's gala?" Not at this time, but I may need to implement additional security measures that could affect your interactions with guests. Whatever you think is necessary, Captain. The safety of everyone attending must take priority. This was exactly why Marcus respected Princess Catherine so deeply. Many public figures viewed security measures as personal inconveniences, but she understood that threats endangered not just herself, but everyone around her. As they prepared for the gala, Marcus received another radio update. Sir, we've confirmed Dr. Margaret Chen's identity. She is Dr. Robert Chen's sister and works at Royal Edinburgh Hospital. She arrived in London yesterday and registered for tonight's gala this morning. The family connection between the two doctors might explain Robert Chen's unusual behavior during the hospital visit. Having his sister attend the gala while his son was a patient would create personal as well as professional interest in the event. Is there anything unusual about her background or registration? Marcus asked. Nothing obvious, but we're still conducting full verification. She has legitimate medical credentials and no criminal history. Marcus decided to maintain heightened awareness without jumping to conclusions. Family connections among medical professionals weren't inherently suspicious, especially when one family member was a patient. However, the combination of forged press credentials and multiple Chen family members present required careful monitoring. The preparation room's atmosphere remained calm as Princess Catherine changed into her evening gown, an elegant navy blue dress with subtle silver embroidery that would photograph beautifully under the gala's lighting. Helen Morrison coordinated final details, while Marcus reviewed security arrangements for the main ballroom. Your Royal Highness, Helen said, you have a brief meet and greet with major donors before your entrance to the main gala. 12 couples, all vetted and approved, including Lord and Lady Pemberton, who funded the new pediatric wing. Catherine nodded, mentally preparing for the delicate balance required at charitable galas. Donors expected personal attention and recognition for their contributions, while she needed to ensure every interaction felt genuine and meaningful rather than perfunctory. As the afternoon transitioned toward evening, Marcus coordinated with the multiple security teams responsible for different aspects of the gala. Metropolitan Police managed perimeter security and crowd control. Hospital security maintained internal building access, and his royal protection officers would stay close to Princess Catherine throughout the event. The main ballroom had been transformed into an elegant space, celebrating the hospital's pediatric programs. Displays featured artwork created by young patients, photographs of medical staff with children, and information about the new facilities made possible by charitable donations. Sir, Mitchell's voice came through Marcus's earpiece. All security sweeps of the ballroom are complete. No suspicious items detected, all catering staff verified, and emergency protocols have been reviewed with venue management. Guest screening status. All attendees passed through security checkpoints. Metal detectors, bag searches, and credential verification completed without issues. Marcus felt moderately reassured, but remained alert. Experience had taught him that the most dangerous situations often developed from seemingly minor irregularities that escalated unexpectedly. As Princess Catherine prepared for her entrance to the donor meet and greet, Marcus conducted a final review of the evening's timeline. Cocktail reception with major donors, Princess's entrance to the main gala, dinner service, her keynote speech, and informal mingling afterward. Each phase would present different security considerations and require adapted protection strategies. Your Royal Highness, are you ready? Marcus asked. Catherine adjusted her jewelry and smiled confidently. Ready, Captain. Let's go make some generous people feel appreciated for their wonderful contributions to these children. As they moved toward the ballroom, Marcus noticed Dr. Robert Chen standing near the main entrance, apparently waiting for someone. His presence wasn't necessarily concerning, given his son's connection to the hospital and his sister's attendance at the gala, but Marcus made a mental note to monitor his movements throughout the evening. The donor meet and greet proceeded smoothly. Princess Catherine moved gracefully among the 12 couples, spending several minutes with each pair, expressing genuine gratitude for their contributions and asking thoughtful questions about their motivations for supporting pediatric medicine. Lord Pemberton, whose donation had funded the new wing, seemed particularly moved by Catherine's attention. Your Royal Highness, Seeing you with those children today reminded us why this work matters so much. Their courage inspires all of us to do more. Lord Pemberton, your generosity will touch countless young lives, Catherine replied warmly. Children like Tommy and Emma and Maria will have better chances because of what you've made possible. As the private reception concluded, Marcus prepared for Princess Catherine's entrance to the main gala. 400 guests waited in the ballroom, and the next phase of the evening would test every aspect of his security planning. The ballroom doors opened to thunderous applause as Princess Catherine made her entrance. 400 guests rose to their feet, creating a sea of elegant evening wear and sparkling jewelry under the crystal chandeliers. Marcus followed 2 steps behind, his eyes automatically scanning the crowd for any unusual movement or behavior. The evening's master of ceremonies, Hospital Board Chairman Sir Geoffrey Hartwell, welcomed the princess with prepared remarks about her dedication to charitable causes and her special connection with young patients. Catherine responded graciously, expressing her pleasure at supporting the hospital's vital work and her anticipation for the new pediatric wing's impact. As the formal reception proceeded, Marcus maintained his protective positioning while observing the crowd dynamics. Most guests appeared genuinely focused on the charitable purpose of the evening, engaging in conversations about pediatric medicine, fundraising strategies, and the hospital's future expansion plans. Dr. Margaret Chen stood near the center of the ballroom, speaking with several other medical professionals. Marcus noted her resemblance to her brother Robert, though she appeared more at ease in social situations. Her conversation seemed focused on medical topics, and nothing about her behavior raised immediate concerns. However, Marcus noticed that Dr. Robert Chen had also entered the ballroom, despite not appearing on the official guest list. His presence might be explained by his sister's attendance and his son's recent interaction with the princess, but the security breach concerned Marcus. Mitchell, verify Dr. Robert Chen's access to this event, Marcus said quietly into his radio. Copy that, sir, checking with event registration. Meanwhile, Princess Catherine had begun circulating among the guests, engaging in the careful balance of personal attention and diplomatic conversation that characterized successful charity galas. Her ability to remember details about donors' previous contributions, ask meaningful questions about their motivations, and express genuine gratitude made each interaction feel special and important. Dr. Morrison, Catherine said, approaching a distinguished woman in her 60s, I remember your presentation about pediatric cardiac surgery at last year's medical conference. Your work has saved so many young lives. Dr. Morrison's face lit up with surprise and pleasure. Your Royal Highness, I'm honored you remember. This new wing will allow us to expand our cardiac program significantly. These interactions were exactly what made Princess Catherine so effective at charitable work. Her genuine interest in the medical details and her ability to connect individual donors' contributions to specific patient outcomes created powerful emotional bonds that encouraged continued and increased giving. However, Marcus noticed movement near the ballroom's service entrance that concerned him. A catering staff member had entered carrying what appeared to be additional wine bottles, but something about his movement pattern seemed off. He appeared nervous and kept glancing toward Princess Catherine rather than focusing on his service duties. Marcus shifted his position to get a better view of the individual while maintaining his protective stance near the princess. The man appeared to be in his 30s, average height, with dark hair and the standard white jacket worn by catering staff. However, his behavior suggested unfamiliarity with standard service protocols. Sir, Mitchell's voice came through Marcus's earpiece. Dr. Robert Chen's access appears to be through his sister's invitation. Not technically authorized, but not unusual for family members to attend together. Understood. Keep visual contact with both Chen family members throughout the evening. As Princess Catherine continued her rounds, she approached a group that included Dr. Margaret Chen. Marcus moved closer to monitor the interaction while remaining appropriately discreet. Dr. Chen, Catherine said warmly, I understand you've traveled from Edinburgh for tonight's event. Your brother Robert introduced me to his son David this afternoon, and I was so impressed by that young man's determination and intelligence. Dr. Margaret Chen smiled broadly. Your Royal Highness, David is extraordinary. His recovery from brain surgery has been remarkable, and your encouragement today meant everything to him and our entire family." The interaction appeared completely natural and appropriate. However, Marcus noticed that Dr. Robert Chen had moved closer to the group, ostensibly to join the conversation with his sister, but his positioning seemed more purposeful than casual. Marcus felt his protective instincts heighten as he observed the developing situation. Three separate concerns now occupied his attention: the suspicious catering staff member, the Chen family dynamics, and the general challenge of protecting Princess Catherine in a crowded ballroom with multiple entry points and service staff moving throughout the space. The evening's program called for dinner service to begin shortly, followed by Princess Catherine's keynote speech. Marcus knew that meal service would complicate security significantly, as numerous staff members would be moving throughout the ballroom carrying trays, plates, and serving equipment that could potentially conceal threats. "All units prepare for dinner service protocol," Marcus announced quietly into his radio. "Maintain visual contact with all service personnel and report any unusual behavior immediately." As if responding to his concerns, the suspicious catering staff member Marcus had noticed earlier began moving directly toward Princess Catherine's location. The man carried a tray of wine glasses, providing legitimate reason for approaching guests, but his path seemed unnecessarily direct and purposeful. Marcus stepped slightly closer to Catherine while maintaining visual contact with the approaching server. Professional training dictated careful observation without premature action that might create unnecessary alarm or disruption. The server reached the group where Princess Catherine was speaking with Dr. Margaret Chen and offered wine glasses from his tray. Catherine politely declined, as was her custom at public events, but several other guests accepted drinks. However, Marcus noticed that the server seemed particularly focused on offering a specific glass to Dr. Margaret Chen. When she initially declined, he persisted with unusual insistence, claiming the wine was specially selected for medical professionals attending the gala. The interaction lasted only seconds, but something about the server's behavior triggered every alarm in Marcus's trained consciousness. His movement, his focus on a specific individual, and his persistence in offering a particular glass suggested purposeful rather than random service. Marcus made an instantaneous decision based on years of training and experience. In situations where multiple suspicious factors converged, professional protocol demanded immediate protective action rather than continued observation. "Your Royal Highness," Marcus said quietly but firmly, "we need to move to a different location immediately." Catherine recognized the tone that indicated genuine security concerns rather than routine precautions. Without question or hesitation, she followed Marcus's guidance, excusing herself politely from the conversation. As they moved away from the group, Marcus spoke urgently into his radio. "All units, implement immediate lockdown protocol. Detain the catering staff member with dark hair serving wine near the Chen group. Do not allow anyone to consume beverages from his tray." The ballroom suddenly filled with subtle but unmistakable signs of heightened security activity. Additional protection officers appeared from concealed positions. Catering supervisors began identifying and isolating their staff members, and metropolitan police officers moved to secure the ballroom's entrances. Most guests remained unaware of the developing situation, continuing their conversations and assuming the increased activity was part of normal royal protection protocols. However, Marcus noticed Dr. Robert Chen's expression change dramatically as security officers approached the suspicious catering staff member. "Sir," Detective Inspector Hammond's voice came through Marcus's radio, "the individual you flagged is not on the authorized catering staff list. We're detaining him for questioning." Marcus felt vindicated in his decision to act on instinctive concerns rather than wait for definitive proof of danger. However, the situation was far from resolved. If the suspicious server was connected to earlier security breaches, other threats might still be present. Princess Catherine had moved to a secured area near the ballroom's main stage, surrounded by protection officers but still visible to guests who assumed this was routine royal protocol. Her composure remained perfect, showing no sign of concern that might alarm attendees or disrupt the charitable event. "Captain Whitfield," she said quietly, "what exactly is happening?" Possible contaminated beverages, Your Royal Highness. We're investigating, but your safety required immediate precautionary measures. Catherine's expression showed understanding and concern rather than fear. Years of public engagements had taught her that security threats were always possible, and she trusted Marcus's judgment completely. Meanwhile, hospital security and police were quietly removing the wine glasses that had been served from the suspicious tray. Initial field testing would determine whether the beverages contained any dangerous substances, though results might not be available for hours. Marcus observed Dr. Robert Chen's behavior with increased attention. The man appeared agitated and was speaking urgently with his sister, their conversation more intense than would be expected given the subtle security activity occurring around them. Mitchell, separate the Chen siblings for individual questioning, Marcus instructed. Keep it diplomatic, but I want to understand their knowledge of tonight's events. As security teams implemented these measures, Marcus faced the delicate challenge of maintaining the evening's charitable purpose while investigating potential threats. 400 guests had donated significant money to support pediatric medicine, and disrupting the gala unnecessarily could damage future fundraising efforts. Sir Geoffrey Hartwell approached Marcus with obvious concern. Captain Whitfield, should we postpone the dinner service and Princess Catherine's speech? Marcus considered the options quickly. Canceling the evening's program would create panic and speculation, potentially damaging the hospital's reputation and future charitable efforts. However, proceeding without resolving the security situation could endanger everyone present. Give me 10 minutes to assess the situation, Marcus replied. We may be able to proceed with modified protocols. Princess Catherine overheard the conversation and approached the two men. Gentlemen, what would serve the hospital and these generous donors best? I'm willing to proceed if Captain Whitfield believes it's safe, or to modify our plans if that's more appropriate. This was classic Catherine, putting the charitable mission and other people's interests ahead of her own comfort or safety. Marcus felt the familiar mixture of admiration and protective concern that her selflessness always inspired. Your Royal Highness, we're investigating potential beverage contamination. If our preliminary tests show no immediate danger, we could proceed with modified service protocols. And if the tests show problems, then we'll need to consider evacuation procedures and postpone the remainder of the evening. Catherine nodded thoughtfully. Whatever you decide, Captain, the safety of everyone here must come first. As they spoke, Marcus received an update through his earpiece. Sir, preliminary field tests on the suspicious beverages show no obvious contamination. However, we're sending samples for full laboratory analysis. The preliminary results were encouraging, but not definitive. Professional-grade toxins might not be detected by field testing equipment, and some substances required sophisticated analysis to identify. Marcus faced a critical decision. The preliminary test results suggested the beverages were safe, but definitive confirmation wouldn't be available for hours. Meanwhile, 400 guests and dozens of staff members remained in potential danger if threats still existed. Years of training and experience had taught Marcus to balance multiple factors when making security decisions. The specific nature of threats, the reliability of available information, the consequences of different response options, and the broader mission being protected. In this case, the suspicious catering staff member was in custody. The potentially contaminated beverages had been removed, and preliminary tests suggested no immediate poisoning risks. However, the forged press credentials from earlier in the day, the unusual behavior of multiple individuals, and the complex family connections suggested a sophisticated operation that might involve additional elements. Marcus made his decision based on the principle that had guided his entire career. When in doubt, prioritize safety over all other considerations. Sir Geoffrey, he said to the hospital chairman, we're going to proceed with the evening, but with significant modifications to ensure everyone's safety. Princess Catherine smiled approvingly at Marcus's decision. She understood that maintaining the charitable event while implementing necessary precautions required delicate balance, and she trusted his judgment completely. How do we proceed, Captain? She asked. New beverages from verified sources, modified service protocols with enhanced staff screening, an abbreviated program that still accomplishes the evening's charitable goals. As Marcus coordinated these arrangements, he noticed that Dr. Robert Chen had disappeared from the ballroom. Security officers reported that he had left immediately after his sister was approached for questioning, claiming a medical emergency required his attention. The development concerned Marcus significantly. Dr. Chen's departure suggested either genuine emergency or awareness that investigations were focusing on his family. Either possibility required immediate follow-up. "Track down Dr. Robert Chen immediately," Marcus instructed. "I want to know his exact location and activities since leaving the ballroom." Meanwhile, Dr. Margaret Chen was answering questions from Detective Inspector Hammond with apparent cooperation and transparency. Her responses suggested genuine surprise at the security concerns and complete willingness to assist with investigations. "She appears to have no knowledge of any threats," Hammond reported to Marcus. "Her explanation for being here is straightforward, supporting pediatric medicine and joining her brother's family during their son's hospitalization." Marcus felt somewhat reassured but remained vigilant. If Dr. Margaret Chen was uninvolved in any threats, her brother's behavior became even more concerning. His unusual movements during the hospital visit, his unauthorized access to the gala, and his sudden departure when security activities increased suggested possible involvement in whatever operation was being investigated. As the modified gala service began, Marcus received an urgent radio update that made his blood run cold. "Sir, Dr. Robert Chen was located in the hospital's pharmaceutical storage area. Security found him accessing controlled substances without authorization." Marcus felt every protective instinct surge to maximum alert. A medical professional with unauthorized access to pharmaceutical supplies, combined with suspicious catering staff and potential beverage contamination, painted a terrifying picture of coordinated threats against Princess Catherine and the gala attendees. "Is he in custody?" Marcus demanded. "Negative, sir. He fled when security approached. Hospital is conducting emergency inventory of all controlled substances to determine what may be missing." Marcus realized the situation had escalated beyond typical security concerns into potential mass poisoning scenarios. If Dr. Chen had accessed dangerous pharmaceutical compounds with intent to contaminate food or beverages, hundreds of lives could be at risk. "Implement full emergency protocols immediately," Marcus ordered. "Seal the building, detain all catering staff for questioning, and prepare for potential mass casualty response." The decision would effectively end the charitable gala and create significant alarm among the guests, but Marcus could not risk hundreds of lives for the sake of diplomatic convenience. Princess Catherine, observing Marcus's expression and the sudden flurry of security activity, approached him with calm determination. "Captain, I can see this situation has become serious. What do you need from me?" Her composure under pressure reminded Marcus why he respected her so deeply. Unlike many public figures who became emotional or demanding during crises, Catherine focused on how she could assist rather than on her own concerns. "Your Royal Highness, we need to address the guests immediately. This evening must be suspended while we investigate potential threats to everyone's safety." Catherine nodded without hesitation. "How do you want to handle the announcement?" Marcus appreciated her trust and professionalism. "Medical emergency that requires immediate attention. Emphasize that this is precautionary and that everyone's safety is our first priority." As Catherine prepared to address the gala attendees, Marcus coordinated with multiple security teams, hospital administration, and emergency response units. The complex logistics of safely evacuating 400 people while conducting criminal investigations and managing potential medical emergencies required precise coordination. Sir Geoffrey Hartwell approached with obvious distress. "Captain Whitfield, what should we tell the media? This could devastate the hospital's reputation and future fundraising efforts." Marcus understood the chairman's concerns, but couldn't allow public relations considerations to influence security decisions. "Sir Geoffrey, will address media questions after ensuring everyone's safety. Right now, I need your cooperation in implementing evacuation procedures." Princess Catherine moved to the ballroom's main stage, her elegant bearing and calm demeanor immediately capturing the attention of all 400 guests. The conversations that had filled the ballroom with cheerful noise gradually quieted as attendees recognized that something significant was happening. "Ladies and gentlemen," Catherine began, her voice carrying clearly throughout the space, "I want to thank each of you for your generous support of this wonderful hospital and the children it serves. Unfortunately, we've become aware of a medical situation that requires immediate professional attention." Her diplomatic phrasing managed to convey seriousness without creating panic, though Marcus could see concern beginning to appear on guests' faces as the implications became clear. "For everyone's safety, we need to suspend this evening's program and ask for your cooperation in following the guidance of security personnel and hospital staff. This is purely precautionary, but we must prioritize everyone's well-being above all other considerations." The announcement created a buzz of worried conversations, but Catherine's calm delivery and emphasis on safety helped prevent the panic that could have complicated evacuation procedures. As guests began filing toward designated exits under the guidance of security officers, Marcus received another disturbing update. "Sir, pharmaceutical inventory confirms that Dr. Chen accessed several controlled substances, including sedatives and cardiac medications that could be lethal in large doses." Marcus felt his worst fears being confirmed. Dr. Chen apparently had access to substances that could kill or seriously harm large numbers of people if introduced into food or beverages. The threat was no longer theoretical but immediate and potentially devastating. "Has anyone consumed food or beverages that might have been contaminated?" Marcus asked urgently. "We're conducting immediate health assessments of everyone present. So far, no one is showing symptoms of poisoning, but some substances have delayed effects." Marcus realized they were racing against time. If Dr. Chen had successfully contaminated consumables at the gala, symptoms might not appear for hours, by which time treatment could be ineffective. Meanwhile, Princess Catherine was moving among the departing guests, offering personal reassurances and expressing regret that the evening had been disrupted. Her presence and genuine concern helped maintain order and prevented the chaos that could have resulted from sudden evacuation announcements. "Your Royal Highness," approached Lady Pemberton, one of the major donors, "is there anything we should be concerned about regarding our health?" Catherine's response demonstrated the careful balance between honesty and preventing panic. "Lady Pemberton, we have no reason to believe anyone has been harmed, but medical professionals want to take every possible precaution. If you experience any unusual symptoms in the coming hours, please seek immediate medical attention." Marcus admired Catherine's handling of the delicate communication challenges. She provided necessary information without creating the kind of fear that could lead to mass hysteria or overwhelmed emergency services. As the evacuation proceeded, Marcus learned that the suspicious catering staff member detained earlier was providing information under questioning. "Sir, the individual admits to being paid to deliver specific items to designated people at the gala. He claims ignorance about the substances involved, but can identify who recruited him." "What did he deliver and to whom?" "Special wine glasses that were supposedly part of a surprise recognition ceremony. He was instructed to ensure Dr. Margaret Chen received a specific glass." Marcus felt pieces of a complex puzzle beginning to align. Dr. Margaret Chen had been targeted specifically, possibly as part of a plan that involved her brother's access to pharmaceutical supplies. However, the exact nature of the plot remained unclear. "Where is Dr. Margaret Chen now?" "In secure custody, undergoing medical evaluation. She consumed no beverages this evening, so if contamination occurred, she wasn't affected." As Marcus processed this information, he realized that Dr. Margaret Chen might have been an intended victim rather than a co-conspirator. Her brother's access to controlled substances, combined with targeting her specifically for contaminated beverages, suggested family-related motives rather than broader threats against royalty or public safety. Detective Inspector Hammond approached with additional intelligence. "Sir, we've identified connections between Jeremy Hawkins, the photographer with forged credentials, and Dr. Robert Chen. They both have associations with an anti-establishment group that targets perceived symbols of privilege." The revelation provided crucial context for understanding the day's events. Rather than random security breaches, They were dealing with coordinated action by individuals motivated by ideological opposition to the monarchy and social institutions it represented. What was their apparent plan? Best assessment is that they intended to create a high-profile incident involving Princess Catherine and prominent medical professionals. Hawkins would document whatever Chen planned to do, creating propaganda material for their cause. Marcus felt relief that the threat was becoming clearer and that Princess Catherine had not been the primary target of violence. However, the involvement of controlled pharmaceutical substances meant the potential for serious harm remained significant. Has Chen been located? Not yet, but hospital security is conducting a floor-by-floor search. He can't leave the building, and we have his description circulated to all personnel. As the gala evacuation neared completion, Marcus focused on ensuring Princess Catherine's safe departure while coordinating continued investigations. The immediate crisis was being managed effectively, but until Dr. Chen was in custody and all pharmaceutical substances accounted for, significant risks remained. Princess Catherine approached Marcus as the last guests were being escorted from the ballroom. "Captain, how can I assist with resolving this situation? Should I remain available for questioning or additional security measures?" Marcus appreciated her willingness to extend an already long and stressful day, but her safety required removing her from the hospital environment until all threats were neutralized. "Your Royal Highness, the most helpful thing you can do is allow us to escort you to a secure location while investigations continue. Your presence here complicates our operational flexibility." Catherine nodded, understanding that her security requirements affected everyone else's safety and operational capabilities. "Of course. Will you keep me informed about the resolution and whether anyone was harmed?" "Absolutely, Your Royal Highness." As they prepared to leave the hospital, Marcus received word that Dr. Chen had been cornered in the building's lower level near the loading docks. Hospital security and Metropolitan Police were moving to apprehend him without creating additional risks to patients or staff. "Sir," came the radio update, "suspect is contained, but claims to have contaminated items that will be activated if he's arrested. He's demanding to speak with Princess Catherine directly." Marcus felt the situation taking another dangerous turn. Dr. Chen's demand to speak with Catherine suggested either desperation or additional elements of his plan that hadn't yet been discovered. "What's his exact statement?" Marcus asked. "He claims to have activated time-delayed contamination that will harm pediatric patients unless his demands are met. He wants Princess Catherine to hear his message about royal privilege and medical inequality." The threat to children struck at the heart of everything Princess Catherine cared most deeply about. Marcus knew she would want to do anything possible to protect young patients, even if it meant putting herself at additional risk. As expected, Catherine immediately asked, "What are his demands? If speaking with me could protect those children, I need to consider it." This was exactly the response Marcus had feared and anticipated. Catherine's genuine concern for vulnerable children would make her willing to accept personal risks that security protocols couldn't allow. "Your Royal Highness, we cannot negotiate with individuals making threats, especially when their mental stability and true capabilities are unknown." "But if children are truly at risk?" "Ma'am, we have no verification that he actually has the ability to harm anyone. This could be a desperate bluff designed to gain access to you." As they debated response options, Marcus received an urgent update that changed everything. "Sir, hospital's emergency medical team reports that several pediatric patients are showing symptoms consistent with pharmaceutical poisoning. Dr. Chen may have actually contaminated something in the children's ward." News that children were actually showing symptoms of poisoning struck Princess Catherine like a physical blow. Marcus watched her face transform from diplomatic concern to genuine anguish as the reality sank in that young patient's. The same children she had visited and grown to care about that very afternoon were now in danger. "Captain," she said with quiet intensity, "I don't care about protocol or personal risk. If speaking to this man could save those children's lives, I have to do it." Marcus found himself facing the most difficult decision of his career. Professional training dictated never allowing principles to be used as negotiating tools with unstable individuals. However, the specific nature of Dr. Chen's demands and the verified threat to pediatric patients created moral complexities that standard protocols hadn't anticipated. Your Royal Highness, if we pursue this option, it would have to be under extremely controlled conditions with overwhelming security presence. Whatever conditions you require, Captain, just tell me what I need to do. Detective Inspector Hammond approached with urgent medical updates. Sir, 5 children in the pediatric ward are showing symptoms of sedative poisoning. Emergency teams are administering treatment, but they need to know the specific substances involved to provide optimal care. Marcus realized that Dr. Chen's knowledge of what he had done might be essential for saving the children's lives. Whether his threats were bluffs or not, his information could be critical for effective medical treatment. What's the medical prognosis if we can't identify the specific substances? Marcus asked. Potentially serious. The symptoms suggest powerful sedatives that could cause respiratory depression or cardiac complications, especially in children already weakened by other medical conditions. Princess Catherine overheard the medical details, and Marcus could see her resolve strengthen even further. For her, protecting vulnerable children was more important than any personal consideration. Dr. Chen is demanding a face-to-face conversation with Princess Catherine in exchange for providing information about the substances used, Hammond continued. He claims he'll only reveal treatment details directly to her. Marcus weighed the impossible balance between Princess Catherine's safety and the children's lives. Professional duty demanded protecting her from direct contact with unstable individuals, but the specific circumstances created moral obligations that transcended typical security protocols. What security arrangements are possible for a controlled interaction? Marcus asked. We could set up communication in the hospital's security center with bulletproof barriers, armed response teams, and medical personnel standing by. Dr. Chen would be restrained and searched thoroughly before any interaction. Princess Catherine immediately supported this approach. Captain Whitfield, please arrange whatever security measures you think necessary. Those children need help, and if I can provide it, I have to try. Marcus made the decision that would define his career and potentially his life. We proceed with maximum security protocols. Dr. Chen gets one opportunity to provide information that could save the children's lives, but any threatening behavior results in immediate termination of the interaction. As security teams prepared the controlled environment for the meeting, Marcus coordinated with hospital medical staff to understand the children's current condition. The 5 affected patients ranged from 6 to 14 years old, all showing symptoms of central nervous system depression that required immediate and specific treatment. Tommy Harrison, the 7-year-old dinosaur enthusiast Catherine had bonded with earlier, was among the affected children. His parents were beside themselves with fear as doctors worked to stabilize his breathing and heart rate. His blood oxygen levels are dropping, Dr. Parker reported grimly. We need to know the specific substances involved to select appropriate treatments. Marcus felt the weight of responsibility for both Princess Catherine's safety and the children's lives. The decision to allow the interaction could save 5 young lives or could put Catherine directly in danger from an unstable individual with unclear motivations. The hospital's security center was hastily converted into a meeting space with heavy protective barriers separating Dr. Chen from Princess Catherine. Armed response teams positioned themselves with clear lines of sight. Medical personnel stood ready for emergency intervention, and recording equipment documented every moment. Dr. Chen was brought into the secured area under heavy restraint. He appeared disheveled and agitated, his earlier professional demeanor replaced by the wild-eyed intensity of someone whose carefully planned operation had unraveled completely. Princess Catherine entered the opposite side of the barrier with calm dignity, despite the unprecedented nature of the situation. Marcus positioned himself where he could intervene instantly if any threats developed. Dr. Chen, Catherine said with remarkable composure, I understand you have information that could help save the children who have been affected by whatever substances you used. I'm here to listen. Chen stared at her with obvious hatred mixed with unexpected confusion. Whatever ideological motivations had driven his actions seemed to conflict with finding himself face to face with someone whose genuine concern for the children was unmistakable. You don't understand, he began, his voice shaking with emotion. Your kind lives in palaces while children suffer in overcrowded hospitals with inadequate funding. This system you represent perpetuates inequality that kills children every day. Catherine listened without interrupting, allowing Chen to express his grievances, while hopping he would provide the medical information needed to save the affected patients. Dr. Chen, I hear your concerns about medical inequality, she responded thoughtfully. But right now, 5 specific children are in immediate danger. Can you tell us what substances they were exposed to so doctors can provide appropriate treatment? Why should I help save 5 children when the system you support allows thousands to suffer? Chen demanded, though his earlier conviction seemed to be wavering. Marcus watched the interaction carefully, noting that Chen's behavior suggested internal conflict rather than pure malicious intent. His ideological motivations seemed genuine, even if his methods were completely unacceptable. Princess Catherine leaned forward slightly, her voice carrying both authority and compassion. Dr. Chen, I've spent my entire adult life working to improve medical care for children. Today I met Tommy, Maria, Emma, Sophie, and David, your own son. These aren't abstract symbols of inequality. They're individual children with families who love them. The mention of his son, David, appeared to strike Chen powerfully. His expression shifted from hatred toward something approaching anguish, as he seemed to realize the full implications of his actions. David thinks you're wonderful, Chen said quietly, tears beginning to form in his eyes. After you visited him, he couldn't stop talking about your encouragement and interest in his programming ambitions. Dr. Chen, David is an exceptional young man with tremendous potential, but right now, other children need our help. What did you give them? Chen struggled visibly with his response, clearly recognizing that providing the information would end any leverage he possessed, while potentially saving lives he had endangered. Midazolam and chloral hydrate, he finally whispered. Doses calculated to cause sedation without fatal outcomes, but I didn't account for the children's compromised conditions from their existing illnesses. Marcus immediately relayed the pharmaceutical information to medical teams, who began adjusting treatment protocols based on the specific substances involved. Knowing the exact compounds would allow doctors to provide targeted interventions that could save all 5 children's lives. Princess Catherine continued speaking with Chen, recognizing that his cooperation required maintaining the human connection they had established. Dr. Chen, thank you for providing that information. You may have just saved 5 young lives. Chen began sobbing as the reality of what he had done fully hit him. I never intended to hurt children. I wanted to expose the inequality to show how the privileged live while others suffer. But those kids, they're not responsible for systemic problems. No, they're not responsible, Catherine agreed gently. They're just children who need medical care and adult protection. Now they can get the specific treatment they need because you chose to help them. As medical teams worked with the pharmaceutical information Chen had provided, Marcus received encouraging updates about the children's responses to targeted treatments. Tommy's breathing was stabilizing, and the other affected patients were showing similar improvements. Dr. Chen was taken into custody peacefully, his earlier desperation replaced by obvious regret and cooperation with ongoing investigations. His ideological motivations had led him down a dangerous path, but his ultimate decision to provide life-saving information demonstrated that his conscience had prevailed over his anger. Princess Catherine remained in the security center until medical reports confirmed that all 5 children were responding well to treatment and were expected to make full recoveries. Only then did she allow herself to show the emotional toll the day had taken on her. Captain Whitfield, she said quietly, thank you for allowing me to speak with Dr. Chen. I know it violated every security protocol, but those children needed our help. Marcus nodded, feeling a mixture of relief, exhaustion, and professional satisfaction. The decision to allow the interaction had saved 5 young lives while maintaining Princess Catherine's safety through careful security measures. Your Royal Highness, your willingness to take personal risks for vulnerable children exemplifies everything admirable about your service. Those families will be forever grateful. As they prepared to leave the hospital, Marcus reflected on the day's events. What had begun as a routine charitable engagement had escalated into complex threats involving forged credentials, pharmaceutical theft, and ideological extremism. Yet it had also demonstrated Princess Catherine's genuine commitment to the people she served, particularly the most vulnerable. The pediatric ward was quiet as they walked past the children's rooms one final time. Tommy Harrison was sleeping peacefully, his parents keeping vigil beside his bed. Maria Santos was stable and comfortable, surrounded by the drawings she had created. Emma Taylor would continue her recovery with additional medical support. Sophie Williams faced her upcoming surgery with renewed hope. And David Chen would heal both from his brain surgery and from the knowledge that his father's actions had endangered other children. Jeremy Hawkins, the photographer with forged credentials, faced serious charges for fraud, stalking, and conspiracy. His ideological connection to Dr. Chen revealed a broader network of anti-establishment activists, though their capacity for coordinated violence appeared limited. Dr. Margaret Chen had been released after questioning confirmed her complete innocence in her brother's actions. She remained at the hospital to support her nephew David while grappling with her brother's choices and their impact on the family. The gala's charitable objectives had been achieved despite the evening's disruption. Major donors understood the security circumstances and expressed even stronger support for the hospital's mission. The new pediatric wing would open as scheduled, providing enhanced medical care for countless children in the years ahead. As Princess Catherine's motorcade departed the hospital, Marcus conducted his final security assessment of the day. The threats had been neutralized, the children were safe, and valuable lessons had been learned about protecting royals during charitable engagements with vulnerable populations. "Sir," Mitchell said over the radio, "hospital reports that all affected children are stable and expected to make complete recoveries." Marcus felt the deep satisfaction that came from successful completion of the most challenging assignment of his career. Princess Catherine's safety had been maintained, while 5 young lives were saved through her courage and compassion. "Your Royal Highness," Marcus said as the motorcade traveled through the London streets toward Windsor Castle, "today reminded me why protecting you is both the greatest challenge and the greatest honor of my career." Catherine smiled tiredly but warmly. "Captain Whitfield, today reminded me that we're surrounded by people like you, like Dr. Parker, like the nurses and families, who dedicate their lives to protecting and caring for others. That gives me hope for all the children we serve." The split-second decision that had begun with Marcus noticing suspicious behavior had evolved into a complex crisis requiring moral courage, professional expertise, and human compassion. In the end, it had demonstrated that protecting others, whether vulnerable children or dedicated public servants, required not just security protocols, but the willingness to risk everything for what mattered most. As they approached Windsor Castle, Marcus realized that the day's events would reshape how he approached royal protection for the rest of his career. The balance between security and service, between protocol and humanity, between professional duty and moral obligation, required constant recalibration based on the unique challenges each situation presented. Princess Catherine had shown him that true leadership meant being willing to face personal risk for the sake of others, especially those who couldn't protect themselves. It was a lesson that would guide Marcus through every future challenge, reminding him that the greatest honor in royal protection came not from preventing all risks, but from enabling principled people to serve others despite the dangers involved. The lights of Windsor Castle appeared ahead, marking the end of an extraordinary day that had tested everyone involved, but ultimately demonstrated the power of human courage, compassion, and commitment to protecting those who needed it most.